All right, so you ever get that feeling like when your comic book store, uh, they're just too good at their job? Like they're burying you in good stuff?
Like a good problem to have, right? But yeah, sometimes I just don't know where to look first.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we're tackling today. Your fall 2025 Marvel previews, they're here.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it's a lot to unpack.
A Pandora's box of plot lines, really.
That's one way to put it. But no worries, because you, our amazing listeners, sent in your meticulously named 2004 Marvel Preview WS.PDF. Seriously, love the organization, which means we're doing the heavy lifting this time around.
Weeding out the must-reads from the maybe-laters.
You got to extracting those wait what moments, and trust me, there are a few big ones this time. Plus, we got to highlight what is US already planning our cosplay 6 months early.
Because, let's be real, half the fun of these deep dives is geeking out over the possibilities.
Truth. Okay, first up, we're taking a trip to the future. Or should I say futures? Because the X-Men, they're time-hopping again. And leading the charge, we've got Bishop and Cable, which, knowing their history, that's a choice.
Timeslide, #1, they're throwing us right into it with this Chronal Predator thing.
Okay, hold on. Chronal Predator. That sounds ominous even for the X-Men.
It should. Think of it this way. Instead of just going after the X gene directly, this thing, it can rewrite mutant evolution, like hit a giant reset button on their entire history.
So heroes could be undone before they even get started, new threats, timelines where everything's completely different.
Exactly. The stakes, they don't get much higher than that. And they put Bishop and Cable on the case. That's like, I don't know, sending in two fire chiefs who both think they're in charge to the same inferno.
Yeah, that's a recipe for either the most epic team-up ever or a complete disaster. Probably both, knowing those two.
And that's what makes their dynamic so fascinating. Both want to protect mutants, that's a given. But their methods, their whole understanding of time and how to interact with it, it's constantly at odds.
So for you, the listener, Timeslide. It's not just about punching your way through a bad guy of the week. It's about whether Bishop and Cable, can they even agree on what timeline is worth saving?
Exactly. The philosophical dilemmas, they can be just as gripping as the action.
Love that. Okay, moving on. Wolverine is going solo. And global. Her own series is already going international, which is exciting. Is this new territory for Laura, or is this building on something?
It's definitely pushing her boundaries. I mean, she's always been a fierce defender of mutant kind, that's a given. But her focus, it's largely been, home turf.
So this suggests a broader view of things, maybe even a response to whatever this growing anti-mutant sentiment is that we keep seeing pop up around the world.
Which begs the question, right? Is she going to find new allies in these new places, or is she going to be confronting villains that even the X-Men as a whole haven't even tangled with yet?
Ooh, I like where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of villains with a global reach, though, Doom is gracing Storm's book with his presence. Now, Doom's never one for subtlety, is he?
Subtlety is not exactly in his vocabulary. But lately, and this is what I find interesting, he's taken a particular interest in mutant affairs, wouldn't you say?
Ever since Krakoa, really, right?
Right. Like a hawk circling its borders, just waiting for the right moment to swoop in. And now, it seems his attention, it's laser focused on Storm. Specifically, her powers. The preview, it kind of hints that they've been diminished somehow.
I think you're vulnerable. So is he trying to exploit that weakness? Or does he have something else up his sleeve? It's classic Doom, isn't it? Always playing the long game, leaving us guessing what his end game really is. I have a feeling we'll be saying classic Doom a lot this season.
This is true. But look, before we get lost in Doom's machinations, we've got a prison break to plan. Issues #8, #7, and #9 X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Back to X-Men. They're all about a raid on Greymalkin Prison, which, as you might recall, that's no ordinary penitentiary.
The old Xavier Institute, it's basically a giant metaphor, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely loaded with symbolism. It's the X-Men's history, their legacy, turned into a cage. Whoever's behind this raid, they're not just after freeing prisoners.
They're attacking the X-Men at their core.
Precisely.
And to make things even more interesting, we've got Rogue and Cyclops leading the charge on this little jailbreak. Knowing those two, well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be the one trying to maintain order.
Talk about a powder keg, right? You've got strong personalities, strong ideals, and neither one's exactly known for backing down. Cyclops, he's always been the strategist, the planner. He's laser-focused on the mission objective.
But Rogue operates on instinct. She's all about empathy.
Put them under pressure. In a high-stakes situation like this, it's anyone's guess who cracks first. And for you listeners, that means paying attention to more than just, who gets out of Grey Malkin. Think about how this experience, it might change them. Rogue, Cyclops, what cracks does it reveal and how they lead? Because trust me, those little cracks, they have consequences down the line.
Always thinking ahead. I love it. Okay, shifting gears now from time-traveling mutants to, well, everyone's favorite web-slinger. Because even with all that going on, Spider-Man's fall, it's no walk in the park.
Not even close. Amazing Spider-Man, #63 and #64, they're throwing him right into the path of Cyttorak. And this is not your everyday bad guy, We're talking about Cyttorak, the mystical being, the source of Juggernaut's powers for years. That alone makes him a force of nature.
Oh, I know Cyttorak.
Right.
But then you add the tagline, The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. Okay, first off, morbid much. And second, that's got to mess with Peter's head, even without knowing the specifics.
Exactly. See, this isn't just about physical danger. We're talking about Cyttorak. He can manipulate life force, destiny, all that mystical jazz. Imagine it, Spider-Man, forced to confront 8 different ways his life could end.
Each one, a potential glimpse into an alternate timeline, a failed future. I don't know about you, but if I were him, after an issue like that, I'd be adding therapy sessions to Spider-Man's insurance plan. Like, stat.
He'd definitely need it.
But hey, at least he's get a somewhat normal life outside the mask, right? Oh, wait, never mind. All new Venom. Looks like they're throwing a symbiote-shaped wrench into things.
And the mystery, really, it's who the new host is. Everyone is losing their minds trying to figure it out. The previews, they're teasing all these possibilities. A journalist, maybe hungry for a story. A terrorist with a grudge.
Ooh, I've seen some people speculating online. What if it's like a disgruntled sidekick?
Or even a power-hungry mayor, could you imagine?
Ah, the chaos. See, this is why I love Venom. It's not just about the powers. It's the psychology of it all. Anyone, I mean literally anyone, can be corrupted.
So are we looking at a villain origin story here? Or a hero, twisted by the symbiote? Or maybe something totally unexpected? That's the thing, we just don't know. And for you, the reader, that means jumping into a story where you don't know the rules anymore. Like, is this Venom? Are they carrying over grudges from the previous hosts? Or is this a clean slate? Is there, dare I say, a chance for redemption? Who knows?
So many questions, and that's just scratching the surface of the Spider-Verse. On a lighter note, though, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, they're tying into a new animated series, which, smart marketing, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Animation gives you a lot of freedom, doesn't it?
You think they'll stick to the classic stories? Or go, like, completely new?
I don't know. I mean, they could easily reimagine those iconic stories, right? Give them a fresh coat of paint, a new style, or they could go totally off the rails, tell completely original tales. Whatever they do, it's going to bring in new readers.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, we've gone from X-Men prison breaks to Spider-Man's potential existential crisis, all in, what, like 20 minutes? But you know what I love about these deep dives? It's those little details, the blink and you'll miss it moments, the stuff that makes you go, wait, what?
The things that remind you just how vast, how wonderfully weird the Marvel Universe can be.
Exactly, like Ghost Rider 44, a Hulk connection. In 1944, no less, it's like Marvel's decided to mix superhero history with a good dose of, like, pulpy action.
And speaking of unexpected connections, Daredevil #16, this one has me very intrigued. We're talking about Matt Murdock. His soul is fractured.
Okay, that's not good.
No, it's not. And each fragment, it embodies one of the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, that's just cool.
Talk about psychological horror. It's a concept that plays perfectly into Daredevil's whole thing, right? His history, the Catholic guilt, his own struggles. It's going to be dark.
It's going to be awesome. And honestly, we've only scratched the surface here. This preview pile is massive. I might need a bigger long box after this.
And that's the beauty of comics, right? There's always something for everyone. But yeah, it can be a little overwhelming when you're staring down a stack of previews this big. Speaking of overwhelming, have you seen the size of this Fantastic Four Doom 2099 omnibuses?
Oh, tell me about it. It's gigantic.
Just like the impact that whole 2099 timeline is having on the current Marvel universe.
That, my friend, is the perfect segue. Because, listener, let's be real. You're out there saving the world, in your own way. So we got to talk about maximizing that precious comic book reading time. And that means collected editions.
Absolutely. And that 2099 omnibus, it's essential reading right now, especially with what's happening in the current Spider-Man 2099 series. It's a chance to really dive deep into the history of that timeline.
See Doom's rise to power.
Exactly. The Fantastic Four struggling to even find their place. You even get a glimpse of, like, that world's apocalypse. It's like a crash course in 2099 lore, all in one massive book.
Love it. Perfect for those who like their history lessons with a side of, oh, I don't know, time-traveling dictators.
Something like that.
But hey, maybe you're craving something a little more classic, with that old-school Marvel weirdness, that giant-sized Marvel omnibus. That's got you covered.
Giant monsters, check. Bizarre team-ups you never saw coming. Double check. It's a funhouse mirror reflection of an era in comics where creators just threw everything at the wall to see what stuck.
And sometimes, what sticks is gloriously strange. All right, listener, time for a tough question. If you could only pick one trade based on everything we've talked about, what's it going to be?
Ooh, that is tough.
I know, right? Okay, so let's break it down. What would you recommend for our resident time travel enthusiast?
Oh, ooh, okay. For a deep dive into mutant history with a healthy dose of paranoia, I'm going Days of Future Past. The complete saga. It's the granddaddy of X-Men dystopian futures, and honestly, with everything going on right now with timelines and alternate reality, it's never been more relevant. Plus, it's John Byrne art. Classic.
Solid choice. Okay, so for our web-slinging aficionado, what are we thinking?
Ooh, it's gotta be Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt. This is Spider-Man pushed to his absolute limit, both physically, mentally, emotionally. It's heavy, but it's powerful. It's a story that it stays with you. If you really want to understand Spider-Man, like deep down, that's the story to read.
Man, so much good stuff to read, both in single issues and, these awesome collected editions. I got to say, I'm excited for fall 2025, even if it means I might need a whole spreadsheet just to track what I'm reading.
But that's part of the fun, right? Every new story, every twist, every surprise, it just adds to the tapestry of the Marvel Universe. It's never ending.
And that leaves us with the biggest question of all. Where are we going to put all these amazing comics?
That, my friend, is the eternal struggle.
Truth. All right, everyone, until next time, happy reading. And may your shelves never run out of space.